So Rodney Hood is a Portland Trailblazer. I decided to take a nap right before the Super Bowl. Of course, I fell asleep about 5 minutes before this news broke, and then I woke up right before the Super Bowl, finding out that we traded for Rodney Hood. So I'm recording this during the start of the Super Bowl. I'm getting this out quickly for you guys. That's dedication. I'm gonna be talking about what Rodney Hood could bring to this team, what I think this trade means, and just my overall thoughts on this. But before we jump into this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at ToryJonesYT. Follow the channel at TrueBlazerFan. And also, if you haven't used our promo code TrueBlazerFan, you can use it to save $20 off your first purchase on SeatGeek. And with all that out of the way, let's jump into my thoughts on Rodney Hood. Now, funnily enough, I went to the Cleveland Cavaliers game where Rodney Hood dropped 20 points on us. And at the time, I was thinking, maybe we should trade for this guy because he always kills us. He always plays great in Portland. If only he played in Portland 41 times a year. And then we went out and actually traded for him. So I thought that was kind of funny. But in terms of who he is as a player, I'm not too excited. I don't think this was a bad trade at all. If I had to grade it, I'd probably give it a B, but Rodney Hood is not going to move the needle at all. He has that Andrew Wiggins, Harrison Barnes syndrome where he's a solid scorer, although he's not too efficient. He's big and lanky, but he's not a good defender. He gets under 3 assists per 36 minutes, and he's not a good rebounder for how big and lanky he is either. He only gets a little over 3 rebounds per 36 minutes. So he's much like Wiggins and Barnes in that way, but he's also only making around $4 million a year. Harrison Barnes and Andrew Wiggins have max contracts making around $25 million a year. So with that context, I don't mind him as a player, as a guy off the bench who we can hopefully tap into his potential, because this is a guy who has very, very good potential, but he hasn't been able to fulfill it. He started his career in Utah, and then after they lost Gordon Hayward, he was given a chance to be a top flight scorer. He put up some big scoring nights, but he was too streaky, wasn't that efficient, and then his defense was mediocre to a little bit below average. Of course, Donovan Mitchell blew up and he took over that #1 scoring role that Gordon Hayward vacated. So then Utah traded Rodney Hood to the Cleveland Cavaliers at the trade deadline last season. Of course, Cleveland was trying to contend with LeBron. They lost LeBron. Rodney Hood was going into his final year, his qualifying offer year, and they decided to trade him here. Before I break down more of his game, he did have to waive a no trade clause to come here. If you accept the qualifying offer, you get a no trade clause, and then I believe if you get traded, you forfeit your full bird rights. So he was willing to forfeit his bird rights as well as waive his no trade clause to come to Portland. Apparently he's enthusiastic about coming to Portland, which I think is cool because most players aren't. Now this is a guy who's a very, very streaky scorer, but when he turns it on, he can light up the scoreboard. He's a lefty, very good in the mid-range off the dribble. And I'm going to be basing this just off what I've seen of him play. I've seen him play a few times, and he's a solid three-point shooter. Right now he's only shooting 36%, but he's been between 36 and 38% for almost his whole career, so he's a guy that's able to knock down a three-point shot. He's a very good mid-range pull-up jump shot, gets a lot of lift on it, so even if he's contested, he's able to get that shot off easily. And due to that pull-up, he's able to use some hesitation around the mid-range area to his advantage, get defenders on their toes, and he's able to beat them to the rim. He's also very solid as a pick-and-roll ball handler, very solid scorer out of the pick-and-roll because he actually does a pretty decent job of manipulating around the mid-range area, using that pull-up, using that hesitation, getting to the rim. Now, I think this dude in the right setting could be a better passer than he's shown, especially due to how well he scores out of the pick-and-roll. I also think he has the tools to be an above-average defender. He's much like Wiggins and Barnes in this regard. He's tall, he's 6'8", and can play either the shooting guard or small forward position. He's lanky, and he's also a solid athlete. He has the foot speed to be able to stay in front of guys. I'm not basing him being a bad defender off anything that I've seen necessarily. I'm basing it off of reading Cleveland Cavalier fan forums, as well as his advanced defensive stats. In Utah, Those stats painted him as slightly below average. In Cleveland, he's been very, very bad. So I have to wonder if that's just a product of the situation or what it is, but this dude could be an above average defender. It might be a problem with his motor. He might not have the mindset or the attitude in order to lock guys up on defense. It might be just his IQ, his positioning, and just not knowing how to play defense that well, even though he has the tool set to do so. I don't know what it is, but I think it will be crucial for Portland to try and get this guy to play at least average defense, because he can give you a lot offensively, and although he's inconsistent, those nights where he has great games, he can win you a game. You just don't want him killing you on the defensive end. So that's something I'll definitely be watching from Rodney Hood when he plays here. Now, in terms of this trade, I think it's solid value for a guy of his caliber. You're giving up two end-of-the-bench guys and Nick Stauskas, who was on a one-year deal and probably wasn't going to come back anyway and lost his place in the rotation. And you're giving up Wade Baldwin, who disappointed a lot of Blazer fans this season, fans who thought he could be a part of the rotation, but he just didn't really pan out. Those two picks, I don't think they mean much. Neil Olshey always tends to trade second-round picks. Traded 2 second-round picks for Gary Trent Jr. and now traded 2 second-round picks for Rodney Hood. Given how many second-round picks Neil Olshey has traded, I don't really value them too much. You can always use second-round picks and or cash to trade your way back into the second round in that draft if there's somebody that you really, really want, which he did with Gary Trent. So you're really not giving up anything. The only question this leaves me with is, whose minutes does Rodney Hood take? You didn't trade away a rotation player to get Rodney Hood, so he's going to have to take somebody's minutes somewhere. That is, unless they make another deal, which I think they will. This trade seems to me like they're going to make another deal. I wouldn't be surprised if they made a big move by trading Evan Turner's contract to match a big salary that they're bringing in. Maybe consolidate Evan Turner with Maurice Harkless, that's $28 million. Combine that with a couple first-round picks, maybe you can get a decent starter on a big contract for that deal. That new guy in Rodney Hood could take Turner's and Harkless's minutes. I also wouldn't be surprised if they straight up dumped Harkless's contract. He's making $10.5 million this year, and if they were able to dump him for a minimum contract, that would get Portland below the luxury tax line. And with their ownership situation, that wouldn't really surprise me if they did something like that, and then Rodney Hood would take Harkless's minutes. Maybe you'd start Layman and then bring Hood off the bench as that scorer, or maybe you'd start Hood and bring Layman off the bench at that small ball 4 spot. Getting Rodney Hood for that small package and having him replace Harkless and saving $8 million a year would be a very solid move. Wouldn't make the team worse, but they'd save money. So I wouldn't be surprised if they make another move. I will look at some trade ideas in the next day or two, because like I said, I think this might be a move before an even bigger move. The final thing to note with this is I said earlier in the video that we don't have his bird rights. That's just a part of him being in a qualifying offer year before becoming an unrestricted free agent. So it's much like Seth Curry, where we'd most likely have to use a mid-level exception to bring one or both of those guys back. Not having his full bird rights means we can't just sign him to whatever contract we want over the salary cap, so bringing him back is going to be tough, but I don't think Portland would necessarily make this move unless they thought that they might bring him back this summer. Given this guy's potential, given the fact that he's still young, I could definitely see him a part of the franchise moving forward. Seth Curry, not so much. I think we will prioritize Rodney Hood over Seth Curry this offseason, especially with the way that Gary Trent's been playing in the G League. I think Gary Trent will get a chance to replace Seth Curry next year in the rotation. So anyway, True Blazer fans, let me know what you guys think of this trade down in the comment section below. Do you think it was a good move? Do you think it was a bad move? What do you think about Rodney Hood? I want to hear your comments down there. Now it's time for me to go edit this video and watch the rest of the Super Bowl, so I'll see you guys later. Have a good day. Peace out. Go Blazers.